Hello, you are watching the Supply Chain Digital Show, brought to you by Supply Chain Digital Magazine, Procurement Magazine, and BizClick. My name is Sean Ashcroft. I'm editor of Supply Chain Digital. Now, in this show, we bring you all the latest news, views, analysis, opinions from the world of supply chain and procurement every 2 weeks, right here on LinkedIn and YouTube and other channels. So at this point, it's my pleasure to introduce the editor of Procurement Magazine, Ilkan Ozsevim. Hey, Ilkan.
Hi, how are you doing?
I've never said your surname before. It's actually quite difficult to say, isn't it?
It is. The trick is to split it up, so it's like Ozsevim, three syllables.
Ozsevim. Okay, I'll remember that for next time. Anyway, so a quick reminder at this point for all of you watching. Please do say hello by posting in the comments section just underneath the broadcast here. And also do vote in our LinkedIn poll. On which note, Ilkan, what is our poll this week?
Thanks, Sean. So our poll for this week is how can businesses best stay on top of complex sustainability regulations? And the options are number one was employer legal expert, 2 is employer sustainability officer, 3 is digitally transform their supply chain, and number 4 is to do all 3. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm inclined to say that a lot of people will pick digitally transform supply chain because, that is one of the headline benefits of doing that is having visibility across all facets of supply, including sustainability. But I don't know, it's difficult. Smaller companies probably aren't going to be able to afford to employ either a legal expert or a sustainability officer. So I guess it depends on what kind of companies you're talking about. But anyway, we'll be sharing the results of that poll at the end of the show. There's loads to talk about before then. So let's get started by taking a look at the latest supply chain and procurement news. So I'll start this off, Ilkan, with some supply chain news. And I'll begin with a story that I wrote a week or so ago. It's from Capgemini, the French multinational sort of business consultancy. Now, a Capgemini report showed that sustainable product design has a long way to go. And the thing about sustainability at the product design stage is that it has the potential to reduce carbon emissions probably more than anything else in the sort of manufacturing or supply chain process. Because if you can design a sustainable product, then it remains sustainable all the way through its life, from design through to manufacturing, and then also through, importantly, to consumption and then recycling or reuse. So Capgemini report showed that around 67% of organizations have found that having a sustainable product design will reduce carbon emissions, yet only 41% of organizations have any plans to actually put such a thing into effect. So as we often see with these things, there's a big disconnect between one thing and another. Now, one of the things driving sustainability, it seems, is fear of non-compliance with regulations, probably more than any other factor, says Capgemini. And another thing was that sustainable design provides long-term benefits, including increased revenue growth, customer satisfaction, and employee engagement. So companies that aren't designing sustainable products really ought to be, for the sake of their bottom line. And my second piece is a look at how China, which is in dire straits economically at the moment, is looking to counter economic meltdown with a $44 billion rescue package. This is an FT story, actually. It shows that China's zero tolerance approach to COVID, is decimating the economy again and again. and it's also going through a property collapse that's compounding those issues. So Beijing has pumped in all these billions of dollars of financial stimulus to try and shore up the economy. Of course, all of China's economy is inevitably going to have a huge knock-on effect to the rest of the world and supply chains. Now, there's a company, Project 44, which is a supply chain data company, showed that in May, dwell times in Shanghai port, so how long container ships are stuck there, are up 195% on a year ago. And of course, that is having big effects on ports all around the world. And it can't really see any end to it, because as long as they have a zero tolerance to COVID, it's going to carry on like this. So anyway, moving on from supply chain to procurement, Ilkan, what's caught your eye in the last week or two?
Thanks, Sean. So I was struck by a piece that we ran to mark the fact that the Indian government is planning to become the world's leading drone manufacturer. Already this year, the Drones Federation of India has held multiple discussions with the government's transport ministry to put a large-scale procurement framework in place. The government there has been working to establish a world-leading drone ecosystem in India, a digital infrastructure to support safe, efficient, and secure access to the Indian airspace by millions of drones. According to global market intelligence and advisory firm BIS Research, the global drone market, currently dominated by the US, China, and Israel, was $28.47 billion last year, with India comprising only 4.25% of that. So the procurement challenge facing India in driving drone manufacturing to such ambitious levels is considerable. So I thought that was quite interesting. So yeah, back to you, Sean.
Thanks, Ilkan. Yeah, that is quite interesting. China's, India has the potential to become, an economic powerhouse. Really, it's still sort of in its infancy in some regards, but seeing it come through in a number of areas, including logistics. So it'd be interesting to see if they really do follow through on those plans. So we're about to take an ad break now, but don't go away, because we'll be showing off the latest issue of the magazines. See you in a minute.
The procurement ecosystem, you have to think about all these different players and how they interact with each other to create value, to make sure this ecosystem runs healthily. My name is Alpar Kamber. I am the founder and CEO of WNS Denali, a global business process management company focused on procurement and enabling procurement ecosystem for our clients. We're part of WNS Global Services, which is a larger business process management company. We bring capability and capacity and digital transformation to our clients across a number of different business processes. One of the key themes when we look and discuss requirements for our clients and what they might need, it usually depends on their procurement journey, their level of maturity that they've built so far in the organization, and then where they want to take it in the next few years. And Sumitomo Bank is an example of that, where they're in the midst of a digital transformation, right? They're implementing a platform to enable procurement and to bring more efficiency and effectiveness. With SMBC Bank, we're working with them to enable their contracts. So that's phase one of digital enablement. And that's where Sumitomo Bank is at their junction of enabling procurement. So that is all possible with data and converting data into insights.
Welcome back. Now, before we go any further, why don't we just take a little look at who's interacting with the show in a comments section. As usual, we have the very international flavour for all our followers. We have Reshma from Malaysia, Sibani from India, talking about India a minute ago, Luay from Dubai, and Adebayo from Nigeria. I see we've also got a comment here from one of our fellow editors, Ilkan, Helen Adams, who's pointing out that China's supply chain or China's economy troubles are also having a massive effect on the manufacturing sector too, which is quite right, not least in the microchip world. Now, actually, while I'm looking at comments, now's probably a good time to mention that for any of you watching the show and indeed leaving comments, if you would like to attend the upcoming Procurement and Supply Chain show in London in October, all you have to do is simply respond yes in the comments section, and our marvelous marketing department will be in touch to make that happen. That's a free entry to the show, so you'll be daft to miss out on that. And so now on to the latest issues of Supply Chain Digital and Procurement magazines. We'll take a look at some of the engaging, insightful comments on offer. Tell you what, Ilkan, why don't you kick us off with this one? What's caught your eye in Procurement magazine, the latest issue?
Yeah, Sean. Thanks. So the article I'd like to discuss is headlined Procurement's Journey to Achieving Net Zero Initiatives. Excuse me. The subject examines how, for most large organizations, progress around ESG is less to do with internal initiatives and more about what's happening in their supply chain at large. We spoke to Bob Glotfelty of Taulia and HICX's Kostas Zyloyanis, and they explained that organizations still have to come some way to go. Forgive me, they still have some way to go if ESG and net zero initiatives are to be met. The piece explains how 95% of Fortune 500 companies publish detailed information surrounding their ESG efforts. 95%. This follows from governmental and regulatory pressure for ESG transparency. But they say the real progress in ESG initiatives is only possible when you engage and collaborate with the vendors in your supply chain. Of course, with multinational firms, suppliers might number in the tens of thousands. Glotfelty, Taulia's chief growth officer, says 90% of an organization's impact surrounding ESG isn't actually related to its direct activities, but instead comes from their supply chain. And that's a pretty big number. The article also zooms in on the digitalization of procurement and supply chain processes as a means to drive ESG maturity and moves towards more sustainable practice in procurement and supply chain. So Sean, what would you like to focus on from the latest issue of Supply Chain?
Yeah, but the first one I'd like to, the one I'm going to look at is actually does echo some of the points you make here in that feature, Ilkan. It's a feature that was headlined, it's called The Value Chain for a Reason. And it's another Capgemini sort of number, because I interviewed Brandon Rail from that company. He's the strategy and operations leader, and also chatted to the Hackett Group's senior director of procurement, Nicholas Walden. Now, these two industry experts were saying that organizations that are able to leverage supplier innovation and expertise can improve their bottom line performance. And McKinsey survey, they said that companies who do leverage innovation from suppliers can enjoy up to a 10% boost to their bottom line. So Walden says of this that technology is a vehicle driving collaborative innovation between organizations and suppliers. And Brandon Rail of Capgemini also points out that some of the strongest advantages of leveraging supplier innovation come at the product design stage, which is, again, something we chatted about earlier on. And he went on to point out how one multinational company, L'Oreal, the beauty products outfit, is kind of leading the way in some ways on supplier innovation, because they're collaborating with suppliers on consumer trends so that suppliers can invest in developing packaging solutions that are in line with these trends. So that's just one example of how a company can wring the most from their supply chain. Anyway, Ilkan, so let's move on to the poll results. Before that, though, just remind us, what was the question again?
Of course, Sean. The question was, how can businesses best stay on top of complex sustainability regulations? And
sorry, after you, Ilkan.
Please, no, go ahead, because the results are coming up. What did you want to add?
No, I was just going to. Are you going to read them, or shall I?
Okay, I'll go ahead with them. Yeah. I'll go ahead. Okay, so the results are in, and they are to employ a legal expert. Was 5% of you said that that's what you thought, or a sustainability officer was 7%. Those of you that thought digitalizing the supply chain would be the solution stand at 22%, and those of you that thought that all three were needed to solve this issue stood at 67%, or stand there, which is an overwhelming, obvious answer.
Yeah, I mean, I can see why people would choose that. It's, I mentioned earlier, for smaller companies, I'm sure employing a legal expert or a sustainability officer is even that possible. Maybe a sustainability officer, because it's so critically important these days. I think probably the go-to strategy would be to digitalize the supply chain, because that's, the surest way to stay on top of not just sustainability, but mitigating supply disruption and increasing efficiency and lowering costs and all of those things. So yeah, I can understand that, actually, that people would have voted that way. Anyway, thank you all for taking part in that. And we're going to move on now. We're going to have a little chat about Big Date in a diary coming up, the Procurement and Supply Chain Live London 2022. It's actually a hybrid event with both live and remote audiences, but with a difference this time, because we're splitting the show into two zones, Supply Chain Live and Procurement Live, to create a single sort of expo-like experience. So if you've not experienced a BizClick show before, you're missing out, because there's usually a stellar lineup of industry professionals offering insights and commentary and advice on the issues of the day, right across supply chain, procurement, logistics, and sustainability. And just to repeat the offer of earlier on, in case there are any latecomers to the show, if you post the word yes in the comments section just under this show, then our marketing department will contact you and arrange for free entry to the show. So that's definitely worth doing. And why don't we have a little look at what you'd enjoy if you were to come along.
Welcome to day one of Procurement and Supply Chain Live.
I hope you will enjoy the session this morning.
Asking people to do absolutely everything is just not possible.
Harvard picked it up, and it's Harvard's first book ever on procurement.
I don't think there is a provider out there who can provide best of breed in all of these different aspects.
All procuring with government is complex.
Coming here to attend great conferences, which were very, very interesting. I'm so thrilled to be here in person at Supply Chain and Procurement Live with BizClick Media.
Nice picture of my hand there, holding the microphone, conducting those interviews. Anyway, are you looking forward to that one, Elkan?
I sure am, Sean. Actually, just as a reminder, Procurement and Supply Chain Live London 2022 will be held at London's QE2 Centre from the 12th to the 13th of October. And to book tickets, please take a look in the comments section below, where you will find a link that you can follow. And we look forward to seeing you there, and it is not to be missed.
Absolutely. Well, okay, folks, I'm afraid that's all we've got time for today. Hope you've enjoyed the show. Thank you for interacting with us and for watching and taking part in the poll. And do remember that the show is also available on demand. So share it with colleagues and anyone else who you know is interested in supply chain and procurement. So a big thank you to you, Elkan, and also to Kieran and Drew and the rest of the video production team, to Justin and the design team for the great looking magazines, and to Kaylee and the marketing team. This has been a BizClick production, and we will see you next time. Bye.